All right, Tanya, Daily Tanya, for Thursday, 13th of Av, August 7th. We're now continuing in the fourth section of Tanya Geras HaKodesh with the fifth communal letter, or Epistle 5. He starts as usual with a verse, Vayas David Shem. The simple meaning was that David had just won a battle against the Arameans, and he made a name. So Rashi explains, either it means he gave the Jewish people, a good name by burying the dead of their enemies, or other commentaries, it's like 18,000 people or something, that David made a name through his heroism of defeating these mighty warriors. That's the simple meaning. However, the Zohar explains the esoteric meaning as follows. That they connect the pasuk, the verse of Vayas David Shem, David made a name, to the next verse, which is David executed justice and tzedakah with all his people. He made a name by doing tzedakah, by being righteous with his people. And the Zohar continues, Rabbi Shimon wept, Bach Rabbi Shimon Amar, Man Ovid Shema Kadisha B'choyema, Man Diyah Staka L'miskene. Who makes the holy name every day? He who gives charity unto the poor. So the Zohar goes that just like David made a name, what's that? Literally, he made a name for himself, right? But they translate, he makes a name. He makes the name of God. He boosts the name of God, so to speak, or he solidifies the name of God through what? Through charity. So someone who, so someone wants to make the name of God, solidify the name of God. Me and you, if we give charity every day, we do that. So that is a quote from the Zohar. It's very nice, but as usual, the Alter Rebbe and Chassidus unpacks it till it really, really makes sense in our kishkas. The Yuva and this we understood as follows. So we're going to go a little bit of a deep dive in some other topics to understand the concept. Again, this letter, like the other letters, this they say was probably written in 1801, and it was a fundraising letter to the Hasidic Brotherhood to support the Jews of Israel, the Hasidim in Israel, and it's a treat to us. He's fundraising, and he's fundraising like a mystic. He's explaining what happens, why you should give a lot of charity, and what it does. So let's unpack this idea of the Zohar that you make God's name when you give charity. This will be understood by way of preface of a statement of the Gemara that it says that the Gemara comments on the verse, Ki biyah Hashem tzurilamim, that for by the name of Yud-Kei, God's name, God is the eternal rock, the everlasting rock, or the strength of the world, as they say. But actually, again, with etymological surgery, you can retranslate that to similar roots. That with the Yud K, right, with the name Yud and K, which is one of God's names, with those two letters, Hashem Tzur, it also means forms. Tzur is like Tzura, image. If God, with these two letters, God forms the worlds. The Gemara, it says on this, that what does that mean? With the Hey of the name Yud K, God created the physical world. And with the Yud, God created the world to come. The world to come can mean a couple things. Afterlife, the time of Mashiach, but I think in this case, let's talk, it means, the world of souls, the reward after a person's, work in this world.
Now, you're saying the hay, how does that become the physical world? How is that?
Let's see. So he's gonna unpack it. So This is just a quote from the Gemara,
Look, I'm
and
doing
he's going to
something on the
actually
Windows 11 or something. Okay.
he's going to unpack it. Okay, and I was just commenting in the Steinsaltz Tanya that I prepare with. He goes, there's a lot of side commentary to understand it. So we got to do this justice in under 10 minutes because we got to move on. All right, here's where we go. So what does it mean that the Yud creates the world to come and the Hey creates the physical world? So first of all, what is the world to come? Let's say in this case, it's the concept of the afterlife, the going to Gan Eden, heaven. What is heaven in Jewish thought? It's the delight that the righteous enjoy in the world of souls, where they bask of the beauty of the Shekhinah, right? It's a world of revelation. Souls it's a different type of world. Our world has its rules and its rules of physics, and the world of souls it's a spiritual, it's a different type of reality, but it's a reality that's attuned to godliness, and the whole reward is basking more and more of the infinite depth and expression of God's Shekhinah. Okay. And the pleasure that the souls get is very pleasurable. Okay. This is why, just to give you another little Kabbalah primer, to really have a starting point of lexicon for a lot of these Hasidic essays and letters, you have to know a couple basics, and one of them is the 10 Sephiros. I'm not going to get into that, but the 10 Sephiros are the mechanisms, how God manifests expression to create reality. And in very short, there is the three intellectual manifestations and the seven emotional behavioral.
Are those written down here somewhere?
It's not all 10, but if you Google it on Chabad.org, you'll have all the 10. The 10 are not. It's not so relevant. The last seven, the two that are relevant here is Chachma and Bina. Right? I mean, very short. The same way a person has an idea and a passion that they bring to fruition, a business plan, an art project, whatever. It starts in will. It goes into intellect. So the first part of intellect is Chachma, is the flash of inspiration. But then that flash has to be developed into a process called Bina, which is the broadening and the details of the flash of inspiration. And from there, you have the idea, you then emotionally and behaviorally put it out. But we're not going to get into
You almost spelled Chabad for me. You just spelled Chabad without the Dalet, so it becomes Da'at?
Yeah, Dat. But we're not going to focus on Dat here because I want to focus more just, so Chabad is an acronym of those things. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly where it comes from. But anyways, let's talk about Chachma Bina. Any good idea has two parts. One is the flash of inspiration, which is not really, it's not even an idea. It's really a window to something much deeper or subconscious, right? Like a eureka is not like, oh, equals MC squared. It's like you have a point of window to the truth that's in you. And from there, you got to then do the Bina. Bina is the cognition. Another way of putting it, Chachma is the primordial stage of intellect before it's really understood. It's almost like intuition.
Perception of an aspect of reality.
Right. Conception, intuition, but it's not fleshed out.
Perception was the word I used. P.
Perception. Okay. But I think perception already could be applied to different levels. Here we're saying more the conception, where it's not fleshed out, right? It's a window to a certain truth, but you don't have the processing yet to articulate it, which is the second stage of Bina. And this primordial stage of intellect, a little drip of it, drips and drabs, come forth into the bina, which you then process. Okay, your cognition. And that makes it possible for your soul, aka your consciousness, to understand any idea. There's the intuition of the idea, and then there's the cognition of the idea. This is a term in Zohar, another Zohar term, called nikuda behechala. Nikuda behechala means the point in the palace, the dot in the palace. A palace, when you have an intellectual idea, you scaffold it, you make all types of beginnings, ends, and details. That's a palace. But there's a dot where it all originates from, and there's a dot where it originates from, and that it what do you call it? Where that dot, which is your kind of the portal to the truth, the portal. That's what keeps the scaffolding of the idea true, right? When you have an idea, a starting point, then it develops into like a whole, let's say, thesis. The thesis has to always be verified by the initial point of the idea. And that explains why you go in certain areas and don't through others. You try to, as long as you're not biased.
You need a perfect example. Do you have one?
I don't. I think it's just there's a seminal point of intellect that transcends the details of the bina, of the cognition. So when you make a whole thesis, right, you develop something in your field of being a professor, right? You have a new idea, you have a new paper, right? You have an idea. The idea is a window to a truth.
Newton's laws. Newton's laws. Newton's 3 laws.
Okay, let's say Newton. Newton, he was sitting under a tree and an apple fell on his head, right? The myth,
That's
right?
That's right.
So he has the idea of gravity and whatever, and then he developed it. So maybe he had some kind of initial intuition of gravity, but then he had to develop it into a whole details.
He got it right on the nose. Any two objects have a force between them, a mutual force.
So all those details really are, it's like a child, right? A child is a seminal fertilized egg, and then it develops in the embryo. No, that's the way it's actually compared to in Kabbalah. Anyways, just to we got to move on because there's so much here. So therefore, in the world, in heaven, in Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, where the souls bask in the light, that surprisingly, you'd think that's a very lofty, transcendent place. That would be Chachma. But actually, that is a world characterized by Bina because it's spiritual scaffolding and development. It's not. It's God's endless, projection being comprehended by the righteous souls. So it's funny that the spiritual world is actually. It says that is. I'm sorry, I messed up. Yeah, I'm sorry. I take it back. The yud is a dot. It's a dot that it shows the level of chachma, of that seminal. What? Okay. It says at the Garden of Eden, there's a river that came out from Eden to water the garden. So it's explained that what they get in the what the souls get in the garden in heaven, which is called Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, is only really a flowing from the source. They don't get the source, right? It's a flowing from the source of God's essence. The essence, no eye has seen it, transcends. But what's fascinating is that, surprisingly, in the element of the human being, the speech on one hand is not nearly as illuminated as your intellect, right? It's filtered out. It's much more dumbed down relative to the way a concept is in the mind, right?
Okay.
Yet there's a saying in Kabbalah that Abba Yosad Brata, which means that the father founds the daughter. And there is a unique kind of shortcut relationship between the highest faculty of the soul, the chachma, the dot it's a window to truth beyond what you're conscious of at the moment. It's kind of just pointing you to something. It's like a portal. There's it's transcendent kind of wisdom that it goes directly to animate the lowest of the 10 spheres, Malchut, which is known as speech. And he gives an example. For example, the way we speak. So speech is a few things happening. There's an idea that you're conveying. There's a feeling you're conveying. There's the feeling or the thought you express in different words. Those words are on a much more loftier level inside your mind, right? Obviously, it's not like a newspaper in your mind, but the words are there because the content is there. It says that one of the rabbis, the Arizal, I think he had a vision, and when he woke up, he says, to explain to you the vision I just had would take 86 years or something.
Whoa.
Like he had a vision in 10 minutes, because you can see something that's obviously a spiritual level. To articulate a deep idea, it could take hours. In your mind, it could take 10 seconds. Or,
86 years.
Yeah, something like that.
Whoa.
So, but here's another aspect of speech. The sounds, the letters, the ABCs, the Aleph, Beis, Gimels, right? The fact that the alphabet says there's 5 parts of the mouth, the throat, the lips. As a matter of fact, for example, kamatz and patach, or kamatz and patach. Kamatz means constriction and patach means open, because those vowels, you have to constrict your mouth or open it. Kamatz in Ashkenaz, kamatz, ka, it's like you're closing the lips. Patach, opening up. The fact that the lips so instinctively make the words and the sounds that you want is not something that's conscious. It's rooted in a subconscious. You don't think, I want to, say an idea about Tanya. I'm going to close my lips. I'm going to open them. The content that I think about, and then I say it. But that whole medium of the sound of the breath being constricted and manipulated to create the words that are coming out of my mouth, that's totally subconscious. That's rooted in the will. And so we thus see, we'll end off today, that the letters of speech, which are in many ways very physicalized, they're not nearly as illuminated as our great ideas that we're conveying. But what's interesting, in a way, the fact that the lips and the throat or whatever, the articulation parts of the mouth act so instinctively is rooted in a place super rational, beyond intellect.
That's Hashem.
Okay, it's Hashem as a system, Hashem creates the human as a system. That's why a child, for example, there's a point when a child understands everything, but cannot articulate anything.
Mordechai Kaplan calls Hashem a process. God is a process.
Okay. Anyways, that ends today.